We must strengthen safety guardrails, prevent abuse and malicious use, and ensure that AI is always under human control. At the same time, we should jointly oppose overstretching the concepts of international security and national security in the field of AI, or placing one country's security over that of others.
And joining us for more on this is Chris Stokel-Walker, technology journalist and author in Newcastle in the UK. Welcome back to the programme, Chris. Now, China is calling for greater international cooperation on artificial intelligence. Do you think that's a realistic goal, or are we moving towards two competing AI ecosystems?
I think that unfortunately we are moving towards the latter, and actually there may even be fragmentation within those two ecosystems. So you have the US on one side trying to shore up its dominance in this position. It has many of the leading AI labs, Anthropic, OpenAI, Google and others, and is also trying to corner off Taiwan and TSMC, as you mentioned. They're bringing production of these chips onto US shores because they are worried about China breathing down Taiwan's neck. And we know, of course, Xi Jinping there, the president, talking about how he wants this global unity around this, but at the same time has been preparing military campaigns with the opportunity, not necessarily the guarantee, of trying to launch an attack on Taiwan in the next couple of years, readying his military for the potential that that could happen if he chooses. And what would happen in that instance, I think, is a massive concern for the rest of the world in terms of cutting off that chip supply. So the reality is that there are these two camps, but then you have other countries such as those within Europe worrying that they don't want to be dominated by either of these and trying to go a third way. So the future really here is intensely geopolitical in a way that perhaps we wouldn't have expected from such a bit of technology.
Now, 29 countries, largely from Asia and Africa, have signed up to a new AI organization based in Shanghai. Could this become the AI equivalent to the WTO?
It's certainly an interesting development, but I think that probably you're talking about a field of comparative minnows. Now, brought together, they are absolutely stronger as one than they would be individually, but the reality is that they're probably unable to make much great shakes in terms of the global trade here. And one of the things that will be looked at very carefully by the US, the UK and Europe is the way in which that is based. So as you mentioned there, within China, that is a kind of a rerun, I suppose, of resource nationalism and the support that China has given many countries within both Africa and Asia for energy development in the last 20 years or so, with what results of that being a kind of increasing reliance on China and a moving towards their pole in this multipolar world. And I think probably the US won't be wanting to countenance that because they'll be worried that that shifts the balance of power in what we think now is a really consequential technology.
The biggest investments today are going into chips. Will computing power essentially decide who wins the global AI race?
Yeah, I think that is the real thing here. If you have the chips, then you have the power. Without any of these chips, you cannot create the AI tools, the systems, the models, or the data centers that are required to enable this to occur. And really, this is seen and portrayed as an economic race. But if you look at it, AI can touch every aspect of our lives, including, as we've seen in recent months, militarily. So truthfully, I think that this is why this is such a intensely fought moment at the minute, because whoever controls the chips controls their destiny. And truthfully, this is a vital part of all of our destinies.
Chris Stokel-Walker, great to have your insights. Thank you very much as always.